39, what was it that bumped us up? Our building codes?
Building codes has been playing a large part of that, especially relative to the rest of the southeast region.
So we need to be proud of ourselves for that. Of course, one of the questions about this measure is it's a process measure. The building codes are in place. They haven't really had a chance to do their job yet, and that's what's really important. And ADECA and Outbound Power and others, South Base and SIA, I think, are working to train people, to the developers and the inspectors, to meet those wonderful new building codes. So we need to be proud of ourselves. Like you said, we need to find times to celebrate it, even if they're small.
I'm very proud of the good performance of the TVA nuclear fleet. We have one more unit coming online, and I think that will also, the Watts Bar 2 will also be affordable once it's up and running. It'll be an integrated plant. There's already a unit there. There'll be shared systems. So I think that that's all running just fine. It keeps rates low. Energy efficiency keeps rates low. And I wanted to point out that on Max's slide, one of the advantages of efficiency was that it keeps prices low. And most people talk about you want to keep bills low. And so you kind of hedge that. Well, maybe rates go up, but you consume less, and altogether your bills are lower. With efficiency, rates can go down, and you consume less. It's win-win. So definitely need to do more and need to spend more of the TVA budget on efficiency. So Gary, I guess that I would say, I don't think nuclear is in the way of our spending more on efficiency. We can do more with efficiency and run our nuclear plants too. Did you have any other?
Well,
you wanted to
of course, you know, we take a little bit of difference of opinion on the use of nuclear power, in that the nuclear power is very expensive. As a matter of fact, you know, TVA has a large debt, and in researching that debt, nuclear power is basically the cause of it, because of all the building that was not, you talk about inefficiency, you know, all these plants were planned, 3, actually now 4 with Bellefonte, not utilized. And the expense of nuclear power on the front end, plus on the back end and decommissioning, and another expense we don't think about, health costs there in monitoring and the health of the employees and the health of the community. That's not considered in the cost of nuclear power, and we believe it should be. You know, and energy efficiency and enriched uranium. So the cost is going to continue to increase for nuclear power. The plant cost has gone like from $8 billion now to estimated $12 billion. So, you know, I just can't, we'll kind of have a disagreement with the efficiency and the cost effectiveness with nuclear power.
I think that this is a very important issue, and we have some sign-up sheets for people who want to get together to talk about issues that are raised that we can't cover in this very brief time. So I think that is probably one. We also have a parking lot of things that we cannot cover today. I think the nuclear issue is a crucial one, and thank you for bringing it up. So does anybody else have? Yes, Carol? Myra and then Cindy.
Dr. Brown, do you ever factor in the cost of water use? Because we've been very concerned about that. I know the Union of Concerned Scientists have run statistics on what types of energy sources and resources would require the greatest water use. And nuclear is off the charts as into future use. And I know, I was just curious if you consider that finite resource.
It's a bit like CO2. It's largely unpriced. You know, there is no cost to TVA, as I understand it, for withdrawal of water for cooling purposes. So it's very hard to get the accountants to consider the real cost of water. I'm very aware of the amount that is withdrawn and the amount that's consumed for the cooling of power plants. It's, of course, nuclear, coal, and natural gas all require a lot of knowing that supply is going to decrease as temperatures rise. So it is an issue. Yep.
Yes, thank you. And Cindy, did you have one? And then
I have the same question. I would just add a comment that I think there's also a risk, on the risk side, not just the cost side, when you think about water and those fossil fuels.
I really enjoyed the presentation and hearing the other southern states, how they have a rigorous IRP process in place is encouraging, and hopefully Alabama will get there one day. For those of you who don't know, we can't even get a copy of the state's IRP, much less have any sort of process to participate in. And sometimes it feels like that it's going to be really difficult for us to get there, because a lot of the financial entities, a lot of the interests in our state who have a financial interest in maintaining the status quo and not allowing the public to participate in any sort of IRP process permeates throughout our leadership in our state. So we have our academia, our education system, the business alliance, all of the leadership in our state, which I'll refer to as being very important in the development of the IRP process, are very influenced by the entities who financially have a lot to gain by maintaining the status quo. So I'm interested in hearing y'all's thoughts on, how can we begin to change that and influence the leadership and help them understand that this is a good thing. The IRP and the public involvement needs to move forward.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's quite important that you stay persistent with the Public Service Commission and with members of the legislature and with the governor. Whether or not you perceive them to be receptive or not, I think staying after this in the most persistent way, pleasant but persistent, is the best strategy. You will eventually win on this issue. Okay, you will. One day, and maybe sooner than later, you will have an integrated resource planning process that's participatory. And the positive thing about this is that it's good for the company, because then you have the public at large that is part of the decision-making process. And so there's greater assurance that what the utility goes forward with has the support of the public. That should be very positive for, say, Alabama Power or any other utility in the state. So I think that is the key there. You just cannot give up hope, and you have to show up at these Public Service Commission meetings, whether they're even if they last 30 minutes. Show up and find an opportunity of getting your voice heard and staying after this. You're in it for the long haul, and so that's my advice. Stay persistent, be prepared for the long haul. You will eventually win.
Max, did you say Mississippi does not have a participatory process, but there's been some motion of getting involved?
Yeah, I mentioned an organization, the Southeast Energy Efficiency Alliance, in my presentation. They've been working in Mississippi for years, particularly on stakeholder engagement. And just like Ken said, participation at the individual level, going to these meetings and trying to, increase the transparency important, but it's also super important to get the message out to organizations and have them participate. So I talked a little bit about faith-based community, that's sort of one idea, but small businesses, these are folks that, mom and pop shops that don't have a lot of time to commit to energy efficiency, or don't have the resources, they don't have time to participate in these meetings, but it's well within their interest. So it's identifying different groups in the community that have a little more, not necessarily, I don't want to say influence, not that we don't all have influence, but when I'm north in the Southeast, it's economic development, it's jobs. These are energy independence, these are the core issues in the region, and the more that you can galvanize different groups in the community to take that message to these meetings, participate, whether it's formal or even informal, raising awareness and education, this is all important. And Ken said you will get there. We were talking at dinner last night a little bit, and one of the reasons that maybe you can't see the Alabama Power's IRP is because they're planning for things like this. There's regional pressure already. From Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, there are utilities in the region that are moving forward with these IRP plans, incorporating energy efficiency as a resource. And Alabama Power, hopefully they're doing it too, because the fact of the matter is, we all need to. It's just that whether you're talking about climate change, you're talking about economic development, these are important issues. So yeah, be persistent, but get that message out to those folks who maybe have a little more pull as well. They're going to be important.
Influence in the state legislature. And they're not here, I know they're not even here. How much do we need to see them as an enemy, or can we partner with them and choose a course that's good for everyone?
I don't think we have any enemies. That AEC's approach is really proactive and positive, and I think that the polite persistence, I have never met anybody in Alabama Power that I did not think was.
Responsibility for why things are as they are may well fall upon all of our shoulders in here. Across the board, my perception is, right or wrong, but my perception is that in general, Alabamians aren't really as engaged in the overall public processes as I've seen in other states. And this isn't just at the Public Service Commission. This is at your Department of Environmental Quality. It's your other regulatory and participatory agencies. That there's just not. There aren't enough people showing up and expressing interest. Your press doesn't cover these issues very well. I think that's another shortcoming here. And so, you're kind of at the ground floor, from my perception, of public participation. And so you've got to recognize and understand that yourself. And then all of you in here and your colleagues have got to get engaged and show up for these meetings. Eventually, that in itself will drive a more participatory process more than anything I can think of. By expressing interest, showing up, talking, getting the press involved, recruiting your allies. It's a long process, but it's a necessary